I bet you didn't know what the last meal before D-Day looked like. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel. And make sure to hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. 80 years ago, as a colossal Allied force prepared to launch the largest amphibious invasion in history, they did something profoundly human. They sat down to eat. On the morning of June 6, 1944, across the ships and camps of southern England, over 1 million men, American, British, Canadian and others, were served a deliberate breakfast. For many, it was a plate of eggs and bacon, perhaps with toast and juice. This meal was more than just fuel. It was a final anchor to normality, a quiet moment of sustenance before stepping into the chaos of Operation Overlord. The story of D-Day and of every major conflict in history cannot be fully told without understanding what fueled the soldiers. As the old military axiom, attributed to Napoleon, goes, "An army marches on its stomach." For the Warfront survival enthusiast, this isn't just a trivia point. It's the core of operational endurance. The logistics of food have decided campaigns, broken sieges, and shaped the very nature of warfare from the Revolutionary War to the modern day. This guide delves into the crucial, often overlooked role of military subsistence, transforming the history of rations from a footnote into a masterclass in survival logistics. Military rations evolved from simple sustenance to, well, a complex science of calories and morale. The challenge of feeding a mobile army has vexed commanders for millennia. Before industrialization, campaigns were severely limited by foraging and, honestly, just the sheer weight of supplies. The Continental Congress's first standardized ration in 1775, a pound of beef or fish, a pound of flour and a quart of cider per day, was a revolutionary concept, though supply failures often reduced soldiers to making tasteless fire cake. The real turning point was the 19th century invention of canning, pioneered for Napoleon's armies, which, allowed food to be preserved and transported over vast distances. By World War I, the United States aimed to field the best-fed army using field bakeries and tinned reserve rations to maintain strength in the trenches. This set the stage for the systematic approach of World War II, where feeding millions of men across global theatres became a, monumental logistical operation. The United States Army Quartermaster Corps established a whole alphabet of rations, from fresh A rations prepared in garrison kitchens to packaged B rations, each designed for specific tactical and environmental conditions. This evolution reflects a critical survival principle. Success depends not just on having food, but on having the right food for the situation, reliably delivered. The World War II ration system was a battlefield in itself, balancing nutrition, weight, and soldier tolerance. For the infantryman on the move, the individual ration was his lifeline. The most iconic were the C-ration and the K-ration. The C-ration, a canned wet meal, was designed as a short-term emergency ration, but, it often became a staple for weeks on end. A typical day's ration included 3 M units, like meat stew or ham and beans, and 3 B units, which were biscuits, candy and coffee, providing roughly 3,000 calories. While hearty, its weight and monotony were major drawbacks. Soldiers famously wrapped the clanking cans in socks to stealthily move at night. In contrast, the K-Ration was born from a need for lightness. Developed in 1941 by physiologist Ancel Keys, it was intended for airborne troops and short-duration missions. Packaged in a waxed cardboard box, a full day's K-Ration, breakfast, dinner and supper, weighed just over 2 pounds and contained items like canned meat, crackers, fruit bars, gum and the ubiquitous cigarettes. However, when issued for prolonged periods, as happened with Merrill's marauders in Burma, its caloric deficit, around 2,830 calories, led to severe weight loss and vitamin deficiencies, a stark lesson in the consequences of misapplying survival gear. The universally hated D-ration was a high-calorie emergency chocolate bar, intentionally made to taste, well, a little better than a boiled potato, so soldiers wouldn't eat it unless they were absolutely desperate. The reality of frontline feeding taught, some brutal lessons in adaptation, trade, and the sheer will to eat. Official rations were only part of the story. On the ground, soldiers became pragmatic survivalists. They traded components amongst themselves, maybe a cheese spread for a fruit bar, and bartered with local populations for things like fresh eggs or bread. During the Civil War, Union and Confederate soldiers would even trade tobacco for coffee across battle lines. In the Pacific and other theatres, lack of food contributed directly to disease and weight loss. The experience of the British Chindits in Burma, who subsisted heavily on air-dropped K-rations, was so gruelling that the mere sight of the ration box could make veterans physically ill. This highlights a vital survival truth. Morale is a tangible resource. The United States military understood this, tirelessly refining rations based on soldier feedback, adding variety and ensuring that even in a can, a meal could be heated. The British Compo ration crate for 14 men included morale-boosting items like jam, pudding and chocolate. The lesson is clear, whether in 1944 or today. Sustainable survival depends on calories and comfort, on nutrition and the psychological lift of a palatable meal. The legacy of wartime food logistics is, well, the modern science of survival sustenance. The journey from hardtack to meals ready to eat, or MREs, is a direct line drawn from the problems identified in the world wars. The shortcomings of the K-ration, monotony, caloric lack, and poor planning for extended use, directly informed later developments. Today's systems focus on greater calorie density, dietary variety, specialized menus like halal or kosher, and packaging that withstands extreme environments. The core principles, however, remain unchanged. Food must be portable, durable, nutritious, and must sustain both the body and the spirit of the individual under immense stress. For the modern survivalist, studying this history is not an academic exercise. It teaches you to think like a quartermaster, to plan for caloric needs over time, to understand the value of trade goods like coffee or chocolate, to innovate with available ingredients, and to never underestimate the power of a hot meal to restore a sense of humanity and resolve in the bleakest conditions. The story of warfare is etched in steel and fire, but, you know, it was written on empty stomachs that needed to be filled. From the doughboys of the First World War to the paratroopers dropping into Normandy, the constant has been the desperate, ingenious and, well, fundamentally human struggle to eat. By studying how armies solved this primal problem, we gain a deeper, gritty understanding of history and honestly extract timeless lessons for preparedness and endurance. If you found this deep dive into the fuel of history valuable, make sure to subscribe to Warfront Survival. Share this guide with fellow history and survival buffs, and let us know in the comments which wartime ration or survival food story you want us to cover next.